which time we'll be concluding with the clip that peaked. Well, not for the first time, we're revisiting a particular issue that we've been discussing over the last several years in St. Lucia. I imagine that with the hope of ensuring that there is some kind of positive change, trying to force the hands of the authorities as far as this issue is concerned. There have been several studies, there have been several reports leading the world in a particular direction, and many countries have decided to take a radical position on that particular matter, the latest being Canada. But in St. Lucia, as far as this issue is concerned, we seem to be in abeyance. We seem to be waiting upon other agencies to act, other countries to act, and then maybe we will follow. Tonight we'll explore the effects of that tardiness, whether it's something that would work to our detriment or whether it's something that will work to our benefit. The usual individuals speaking on this area of concern, talking about Andre Pancho de Queiroz, chairman of the Cannabis Movement of St. Lucia, and Aaron Alexander, who is the secretary of that organization. Sir, sirs, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us again and being so supportive and allowing us to voice our views for so many years.
We had a report last evening during the DBS News World, and that is by Kendall Burton, where the cannabis movement has challenged both government and the opposition to make a definitive statement on the progress towards cannabis law reform on the island. So we go straight into that report.
Over the past few decades, a growing number of Caribbean countries have been advocating for the legalization or decriminalization of marijuana. Those in favor of its decriminalization do so on the basis of its medical and economic potential. Those opposed are concerned about the potential health effects. Even though CARICOM has made the issue a high agenda item at its highest decision-making forum, there seems to be little headway being made. This week, the head of the Caribbean Drug and Alcohol Research Institute took to Facebook to challenge both the ruling and opposition parties to make definitive statements on the issue.
I basically used Facebook to, to jump on one of the posts in the SLP and say, hey, come on, guys, this is ridiculous. Let's stop playing politics, make a definitive statement from the opposition so the government can move forward. And so the former Prime Minister, the Honorable Kenny Anthony, responded publicly and said, I spoke of this positively in Parliament the last time it met, and the leader of the opposition is also on record of being in favor of cannabis regulation.
Under that same Facebook post, Andre de Queiroz of the Cannabis Movement announces that the leader of the opposition had expressed a willingness to meet with the group's executive so it could make a presentation to the Labour Party. But Day says convincing the opposition of the benefits of decriminalization would simply be the beginning of a much bigger challenge, that of winning public support for the idea.
We have been extremely successful in demonizing marijuana over the last 50 years. The education program to make marijuana evil and bad has been very successful, and that is really the major impediment. There are so many people with old ideas that cannot be substantiated through science. You know, we have 20 years of medical marijuana, as they call it in America, and that 20 years of legal cannabis basically has given scientists the opportunity to now study cannabis under a prescription with a patient under a controlled circumstance. And the science that has come out over the last 20 years has been overall in favor, minimal problems.
Despite all of the existing research data, CARICOM has called for careful, in-depth research to inform decision-making. Day believes the time has come to make a decision.
We've submitted to government a draft of amendments to the existing act that should be in place. And we're asking for, actually what we're asking for now at this point is we need a harmonized cannabis act throughout the OECS. All the countries should adopt basically the same law. We could have inter-island trade. We could really promote cannabis on a regional basis in terms of tourism, in terms of medical marijuana, healthcare. So it makes sense that after we get the decriminalization stage, which is just let's stop arresting people, let's free people who are incarcerated for cannabis. I mean, it's ridiculous to pay $2,000 a month to house somebody because they smoked marijuana or even sold marijuana, as far as I'm concerned. We should release those people and move forward, basically.
Sir Richard Branson, in making his case for decriminalization, expressed similar sentiments, saying that criminalization and tough law enforcement do nothing to make societies safer. Puerto Rico opened its first medical marijuana dispensaries at the start of 2017, making it the second Caribbean entity after Jamaica to legalize medical marijuana. Marijuana can also be used in small amounts in Jamaica and Belize. Antigua and Barbuda has now joined that list. For the DBS News World, Kendall Burton reporting.
Thank you very much, Kendall, for this report. It was filed last evening during the DBS News World. Mr. Decaires, why do you think the opposition and the government in St. Lucia have failed to state their position on the whole marijuana issue, to present a definitive statement?
I believe they don't understand what the legalized regime would be. And as a result, we have reached out to both more the opposition. I've reached out to Mr. Philip J. who's been very cordial and responds immediately. And the intention is to get to their executive with our executive to do presentations and a question and answer session so that everybody is clear and there's no they say and no ambiguity in the message. So Mr. Pear is trying to organize that particular event. And then we have to also target the members of the ruling party. As to how we're going to do that, one, I don't know if we them individually, but it's all about education, because a lot of them seem to have the perception, they have one perception, but that is not the real perception. And they need to ask questions to find out. They're just making decisions without even asking us. No one has contacted us to say, well, come in and let us understand exactly what a legalized regime would look like, what would happen, what would the regulations be. So we believe that at this point in time, we're going to take on a national educational program, and we had already told the minister that in 2016, in November, that, you know, before we do any legalization, we have to have a national educational program, which will include town hall meetings, community center meetings, outreach programs, to get the feedback from the people and to also educate the people as to what the legalized regime would be. And then we will develop regulations after that. After the regulations are developed, then we have a national educational program so everybody knows the rules. And then we could start the implementing legalization.
But don't you think what's happening right now, Mr. Alexander, is symptomatic of how governments operate in St. Lucia? They don't lead, but they tend to follow.
Well, that is true, and all governments care about their own political survival. And this is an issue where governments or politicians basically tend to believe that maybe the people will not support them and the people will not vote for them if they were to take that more progressive line of actually saying, well, let's go down that road of decriminalization or outright legalization. So it's a political issue as well, and some of them politicians waiting to see who will budge first and who will say, well, let's do it first, you know, and in the meantime, people are suffering, you know, because this is this whole cannabis industry, as I like to call it, has the potential for the employment of the masses of the people. You know, this is a subject, this is an issue where politicians have to realize in this time and age that we're living in, when unemployment is rampant in the country, this could be a possible answer for creating employment in the country. So people would be less dependent on the politicians, and the politicians feel if they do that, they just might be giving people too much independence, where people don't have to come to them, hey, Mr. Politician, I have to send my child to school, I need money, or my house burn, or this and that and the other. The people will become more independent, and the people will have something where they could have some gainful employment. So the politicians have to look at this on a different level altogether, and don't just be concerned about their own narrow political survival.
But Mr. Decaires, don't you think we have lost the boat? The same way we have followed the likes of St. Kitts and other countries with regard to implementation of the Citizenship by Investment program. It's not doing as well as it should. Don't you think that if at the last moment we decide to either decriminalize or legalize marijuana, it will come to the same thing, we'll experience the same results?
My greatest concern is the big countries like Canada and America doing it. I think if we allow them to get too far, then it would be worthless for us to try it then. Still, that's from the economic standpoint, but from the human rights standpoint, we can't send people to jail for flowers in your pocket anymore. That's ridiculous. Everybody realizes that. From the economic standpoint, though, regionally, I still believe, because we, the cannabis movement, in touch with advocates like myself from Guyana all the way to St. Kitts Nevis. And even though the politicians are speaking, Mr. Gaston Brown spoke, and we're in contact with Frank I, who went to the OAS and was represented, a Rastaman that was representing in the OAS on the cannabis issue. Even though we connected to him, there's still no sort of strategy going forward. St. Lucia, our recommendations and regulations and how far we have reached in terms of being able to implement legalization, the other regional territories are not where we are. And just from the discussions that we have had with the Grenadians, the Trinidadians, the Barbadians, the Antiguans, we believe that one of the first steps, as Dr. Day had said, would be, instead of each of us individually coming up with a Cannabis Act, we could pool our resources and come up with an OECS Cannabis Act, because Trinidad is definitely out of it. Barbados is talking, but definitely we have St. Vincent and Antigua, and we have ourselves here, and these are three of the leading islands.
I think that will further complicate the issue if you're looking for some kind of harmonization on the part of the islands in the sub-region.
Well, you see, Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, I don't think they have the same relationship as we have with our OECS territories. We have the same money. They don't have the same money. So I believe we can have a harmonious Cannabis Act. And it's going to cost some money. It's quite expensive to do.
But every time you hear about harmonization, Mr. Alexander, as far as OECS is concerned, whether it has to do with the protection of consumer rights and so on, it fails. It does not really work.
Well, you see, OECS, CARICOM, CARIGON, all these people are just a talk shop. Because like Pancho, like Mr. DeCaires has been saying, for us to have that harmonized policy for the OECS, it could be a start. But then when you have bigger islands like Jamaica and so on, who are part of the greater CARICOM level, where these countries have more land, etc., where they could really grow cannabis on a greater scale than us, we're going to get drowned out. So we have to somehow, even from the CARICOM level of the CARICOM Commission, etc., maybe there have to be a level where it's something that's synchronized with CARICOM as a whole, because we are part of CARICOM just the same. So a CARICOM policy would probably be the best thing for us, so that Jamaica and everything will be on a level playing field. Because, I mean, right now we know even Canada is importing from Jamaica, you know, so there's already trade links going on. And if, as Andre said, if we let the bigger countries get ahead of us, we'll lose out, because right now these bigger countries, we might have to start importing, you know, so we really, you know, we're being tardy and we're really dragging our feet on this issue, and we're going to miss the boat.
And actually, Mr. Polio, let me just interrupt here. People have offered me American weed recently this year, showing me they got it imported from America, and want to show me then how great it is. And, you know, I say, no, sorry, you know, it's a local thing that we're looking for. That's exactly what we don't want. We want to be able to develop our own strains so that people would come to St. Lucia and be able to enjoy, and it would be a massive boost for the tourism industry.
Jamaica is boasting about its own strains. Is looking to take advantage of it through research and so on. Can you vouch for our strain in St. Lucia?
Well, no, we can't.
Right.
What has happened is, back in the early 60s, when Rastafari was now using the herb, much of the herb was sativa coming from the South American continent. And those seeds were planted predominantly by the Rastafarians, and they kept on planting those seeds over and over. But as time went on, then you got the introduction of other varieties from other parts of the world, and so it sort of contaminated the original strain. So now there's really no original strain. But the horticulturalists that I've been speaking to from Holland and the United States and Canada, these are totally highly qualified people. They say, listen, St. Lucia, you all need to develop your own strains down there. And the way that you do it is just by successive breeding of good strains that produce the effects that you want. Because there's recreational cannabis and there's also medicinal cannabis. So you're chasing different elements in those two plants. Now, for instance, if like a multinational medical company comes down and approaches the government and says, listen, we want 14,000 kilograms of herb and we're going to make this for epilepsy, this particular drug for epilepsy, they will have to give us the strains that they want us to grow, and then they'll develop the drug. So it's a very wide and diverse sort of economy that we'd be entering into. It's not a black and white.
And just talking about epilepsy, the FDA has approved Epidiolex to treat 2 forms of epilepsy. First prescription drug made from marijuana.
Yeah.
But let us look at the situation on the ground in St. Lucia and the failure of the authorities to really move in a decisive manner as to whether to decide whether to decriminalize or to legalize. How much responsibility do you as a person, as a movement, take for failing to convince the authorities to go in a particular direction, a decisive direction?
Well, the most we could do is the advocacy work. We have to ensure that we do the education, and even now, as far as the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari is concerned, we have this island-wide campaign right now, which we call a mobilization drive. And we've had 3 of them already. We started in Grosile, we went down to Dennery, we went to Ancillary Sunday just past, and on Sunday the 8th of July we're going to Vieux-Fort. And all these mobilization meetings we're also having Mr. Dikeres coming along and educating the people about the issues concerning cannabis. We need to enlighten the people because, like you heard in the clip there with Dr. D, there have been 50 years of propaganda and miseducation about the herb. And even our politicians fall in that same thing as well. So they have that certain perception, which is the wrong perception, and they need to re-educate themselves as far as the herb is concerned. The information is out there. Some of them just close their minds to it, but we as an organization, as a movement, we have to ensure that we keep the information out there and keep current as well to let people know what is happening in the world as far as cannabis is concerned. So as a movement, we can only do so much because the whole education campaign we do in these mobilization drives, these things cost money. And as an organization, the Rastafari Council, the cannabis movement, we have no money. But then the government themselves, they set up the Cannabis Commission, the National Cannabis Commission, which Mr. Michael Gordon was the chair of that, with no budget. You know, so all these things, the politicians are shortchanging the issue and shortchanging what needs to be done because there need to be that massive re-education of the people, because you'll ask younger people today and majority of them will tell you, yes, let's do it. But some of the older folks will still hold back and say, no, food, this and that and the other, because they already have that perception from the 50 years of miseducation. So there was a deliberate effort to miseducate people. So right now we have to have that deliberate effort now to re-educate the people, and it takes money. And if we don't have those kind of resources as a movement, we can only do very little.
Last week during the radio program Newspin on Radio Caribbean International, I spoke with the Prime Minister. I did pose the question to him to give me a definitive position, the government's position as far as the whole marijuana situation is concerned. This is what he had to say. Okay, I suspect Junior is not ready, so we'll continue the discussion, and maybe in just a bit we'll get that reaction from the Prime Minister.
No. I'd like to explain the dangers of just decriminalization. When you decriminalize, all you are saying basically is that you could have herb in your pocket. And if the police find you in a roadblock, or if they search you anywhere and you have a certain amount, and this has to happen, the government has to come out and actually say 30 grams or 25 grams or 50 grams, because you cannot leave it up to a police officer's discretion to decide. A police officer will know how much an ounce is. And if you have more than an ounce, then you will confiscate the rest of the ounce and maybe give you a ticket or something. But that's what decriminalization is. But what it doesn't tackle is the public health issues. It doesn't tackle the COPD. It doesn't tackle the consumption of edibles. And edibles are sending people to the hospital. It doesn't deal with the young people, 10, 11-year-olds going to school and burning ganja. It doesn't deal with all the health issues. So we need to legalize so that we're able to regulate it. Because if you just decriminalize, then it's going to be halikase, anybody doing what they want. The police can't stop them. So you need regulations, especially right now. To just decriminalize would be totally irresponsible on the government's part. If they say we're going to decriminalize and then go ahead with the suggestions and recommendations that you have given us, meaning that public consultation and stakeholder meetings with Conference of Churches, the Manufacturers Association, then you develop the regulations, and then we implement legalization. That means people could start making money, businesses come in, and then the whole economy grows. Just to decriminalize is really not the way to go, but it's the first step. So we have to convince the authorities to decriminalize first, and as Dr. Day said, give the Industrial Hemp Initiative permission to conduct research trials that we submitted in 1998. It's now 20 years later. We know that it's not ganja now. Back then everybody thought it was a crazy thing. Now we know that hemp is not ganja. So we'll remove it off the Misuse of Drugs Act and let us go ahead and then deal with the high THC cannabis in a regulated environment. That's what we intend to do. But it would take time, and it would take education, it would take funding, and so
therefore, based on what you're saying, there's some kind of justification for the government feeling to move quickly with regard to taking a position on this whole marijuana matter, and whether to decriminalize or to legalize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, it's a step at a time, and Mr. Dikares just laid it out for you. You know the steps that needs to be taken. But then it's the lack of political will from the authorities that causing. Because, you know, Tim, one thing with politicians, they do not like to empower the people. They do not like to educate the people, because to them, sometimes it works to their own detriment. So they don't like, for example, look at the whole thing about the constitution reform issue, where you could have the power of recall of an MP, where, you know, you get a certain level of signatories, etc., in your constituency, and you fire that person, and the Governor General have to remove them. The politicians all sided not to implement those things because they don't want to empower the people. The same way, okay, poverty is rampant. Ancillary canneries, they say, is below the poverty belt, right? These areas, that could be an industry taken into those areas and allow the people to grow, and the people will have a source of income where that could raise the standard of living for the people. Because government after government come and they are bankrupt of ideas as to how to create employment for the people. We hear about CIP program, we hear about Ojola, we hear about all kind of things, but at the end of the day, how really and truly that impacting to create massive employment for the people, because the masses of the people are unemployed, especially the youth. So if you create something where the people, I like to say that tourism will not save us. Tourism cannot save us. And government after government, budget after budget, 5 new hotels, 4 new hotels. Where are the factories? Where are the factories to create things? Where is the manufacturing? The factories to use the industrial hemp to create cosmetics, create cloth, and etc., etc. Where are the factories to cause our people to be creative? Is hotels upon hotels creating more headache in terms of the family structure breaking down? Parents have to work split shift, unsupervised children doing what they want, teenage pregnant. Or, you know, all these social ills comes out of these things because governments tend to think tourism will save us. Agriculture that will save us, Tim. Going back to the land, having a strong backbone of agriculture. Do you think it's
only agriculture, or it will take a multiplicity of sectors?
Yes, Tim. Yes, but I'm saying agriculture have to be the backbone. When you could feed your people, that is a power to you as a country, right? So if we make agriculture the backbone, the amount of money we pumping into tourism, if we have to do that to agriculture, look at the amount of incentives America is giving to their farmers. You know, we would make agriculture sexy again, if so to speak, to encourage young people. Agriculture has the potential to employ the masses of the people. We have a lot of youth on the block, people not employed, etc., etc. With there's so much land available, the Ministry of Agriculture could look at suitable lands, get groups of individuals, you know, allow them to use the land, give them the incentives. They had some kind of youth entrepreneurial program, YEP or something like that. Where is that? All these things gone down the drain. The youth are there waiting for how long for the implements, tractors and equipment to help them work. Nothing. So agriculture is what will save us and reduce our import bill. Unless we get a government that can see and have the vision of that team, we will go nowhere as a country.
You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. Let's take a break. Back in a moment to continue the discussion and, of course, later, your calls. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue to focus on marijuana and the way forward, and so far the failure of the authorities, government after government, to take a position on that whole important industry. I'm wondering if my producer can tell me whether the clip is ready. Okay, the clip is ready. So we'll hear now from Prime Minister Allen Chastanet. I spoke with him on Newspin last week, and I did ask him to state the government's position on marijuana. This is what he had to say. Position on the whole marijuana issue.
Well, during the campaign, we talked about being able to decriminalize marijuana. We think that it's wrong that a young person should be put in jail for smoking a spliff. And I think that's the first step. There is also a regional paper that's hopefully coming out very soon in order that we can join with our other colleagues and have a consistent policy.
Why wait for the other countries when Antigua has taken a position on it on its own? Also, Jamaica has taken a position. What is preventing St. Lucia from taking a position on its own?
Nothing's preventing us from taking a position on our own, but we've decided that we wanted to be able to wait. Antigua had elections, and they went ahead and proceeded to decriminalize it. The next thing is to whether you want to actually legalize it. So those are some of the things. And what is that potential market going to be? Because now that you've legalized it, what are you going to be able to produce?
Okay, the comments made by Prime Minister Allen Chastanet last week during the Newspin program on RCI. What's your judgment?
Yeah, I'm great, Mr. Chastanet. He impressed me with that answer. But as you can hear, he does not know what the legalization means, because I think he has a perception that his perception of legalization is not actually what we are trying to achieve. I don't think we're on the same page, and that is why it's necessary for Mr. Chastanet or members of his cabinet who are unsure of what this is going to look like to give us, the cannabis movements, an audience, and that's Dr. Day, Dr. Stephen King, Dr. Gilberta St. Rose, the Ionola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, Mr. Bain, and Ms. Vargas, who's the legislative draftsperson, the attorney on the team. So they can ask the questions that are burning them, that they really don't know. They don't know what legal. I didn't know about 5 years ago. I was saying decriminalization, until Dr. King said, wait, listen, this is what legalization really means. And it means a regulated industry. Because if we don't do that, then people will be smoking anywhere. We don't know the rules. You need to put rules and regulations in place. Who can buy, who can sell. We presented our paper to CARICOM, to the SLP, and to the local commission. I don't know if the local commission, Mr. Michael Gordon, has presented it to the PM and the cabinet as yet, but because they created that local commission to investigate legalization. They were active or semi-active for a year, and we sort of had a semi-relationship with them and assisted where we could, and we submitted our recommendations to them. So CARICOM, the SLP, and the local commission has our recommendations.
Now, the Regional Commission on Marijuana, I think recently presented its status report to CARICOM. And come July, at the heads meeting, it will be presenting its findings and recommendations. What do you expect how do you expect that the government of St. Lucia will react to the recommendations?
Well,
I know you can see into the future,
yeah.
But what do you want to happen?
Well,
exactly
we heard from the PM, and he just said that they're waiting for that paper, and then the government will decide what they're going to do. So I mean,
State
from all
lawmakers legalized the medicinal.
indications, from all indications, I mean, most of the leaders of the OECS, and as we know, Antigua has already gone ahead. So we're not expecting the commission to say, do not do it. We're expecting the commission's paper to say, yes, do it, but then it will take the political will now in the different countries to say, well, whether they're going to follow the recommendations by the commission. Because this thing, definitely there have to be rules and regulations. The same way you have license to sell intoxicating liquor, and you do not sell liquor to minors, etc. It have to be in a similar framework for the control of the cannabis. So, I mean, no smoking in public places. These are things that we as a movement, we support. And also, when I heard the PM spoke there, I mean, the PM himself have to realize that Rastafari, like Antigua Prime Minister declared, have to be in the forefront of any benefits coming from that industry, because we are the ones who have died, we have bled, we've been incarcerated, our families have been destroyed, we've been fined exorbitant fees in the courts, etc., all in the name of cannabis. That is why Mr. Gaston Brown declared that Rastafari have to benefit totally. So we're looking at presenting to the government on when that time comes, the fact that even taxes collected from the industry, a certain percentage goes to the Rastafari community to help us build up our community, etc. So we're really looking forward to what this government will do once that paper comes out. At one time, the council met with the past Prime Minister, Dr. Anthony. We met with him, and he said to us, we're waiting to see what Jamaica will do first. Let Jamaica lead the way. And boom, Jamaica go ahead and decriminalize. And Dr. Kenny Anthony put his tail, you know, where, and he just kept quiet. So I'm listening to the Prime Minister. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's new to this. He's the very first time he's been the Prime Minister, etc. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But Mr. Prime Minister, come July, when that paper comes out, we really want to see where your government will go with this, because this is an issue that the people are looking forward to the government taking a serious stance on. And what if CARICOM papers say, well, don't do it? Antigua already done it. So where does that put us? Will the government now say, well, look, CARICOM recommend not to do it, so we're not doing it? I mean, it's really, you know, we're really in some kind of tight spot, you know.
Mr. Decaires, let's go back to the election campaign of 2016. Okay, just before the June general election. Do you think that would have been a good position to politicize that whole issue relating to marijuana? Make it a campaign issue?
But it
you think
was.
it should have? No. On a grander scale. On a grander scale. Because I think the dominant issue would have been crime, corruption, the economy, unemployment. Marijuana did not feature prominently.
No, it didn't feature prominently. In fact, the Thursday before the Monday elections was actually when the SLP joined in, because Mr. Prudent was supportive even in the prior election to decriminalization or a change, a reform in the laws. And then Mr. Herman Gale Francis came out prior to the election and made that comment. And then only 4 days before, the SLP made the comment. So I believe they felt, well, look, those other two people doing it, we better do it too. Let's put our chips on the table as well.
But what about the cannabis movement of St. Lucia? What position did you take? On that
The Green Party, you mean?
No, I'm interested. We did not have a cannabis movement at the time?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
organization?
Yeah, but we did. I mean, we were glad to see that. In fact, when I saw Mr. Herman Gale Francis say it on television, I was very perturbed. I said, how could these guys go and say they're going to legalize and they never spoke to any of us about it? That's not your idea. You all can't come out there and just decide, well, we will do this. You all need the people who are educated and experienced in the field that knows what's going on. You need to consult with them and say, well, you know, what does this mean? Can we say this? So he went ahead, and then I went on the news and challenged him, and he said, no, I'm serious. They won, and he went on the news after they won, and he said, we're going to do it. But Mr. Herman Gale has stuck his neck out, and they have people like Mr. Guy Joseph, who said plainly in the crime symposium that he's against it. So I would love to hear what Mr. Guy Joseph's position is, if Mr. Guy Joseph wants people to still go to jail for small amounts of herb. And if Mr. Guy Joseph is listening, I'd love him to make a statement on that. Because in the crime symposium, after Mr. Mosheri did a very eloquent speech, the Minister of National Security stood up and gave a monologue about he never locked up anybody for herb. And then Mr. Philip J. Pearce stood up, and his first words out of his mouth were, I don't think people should go to jail for cannabis. And we were in a crime symposium with 100 people in the room. And then Mr. Guy Joseph stood up and said, well, I have a different take on it. So Mr. Guy Joseph, I know, publicly said he's not in favor of what Mr. Herman Gale and Mr. Pearce said. So I would really love to hear what Mr. Guy Joseph's position is on it.
And Mr. Guy Joseph is a very influential member of the cabinet.
Well,
Exactly.
that's what I was going to say,
Exactly.
because it seemed that there's a rift in the cabinet, if that's the situation, because there may be one or two other ministers that are opposed to it. So the Prime Minister, is kind of holding back. So, I mean, again, come July, we'll see what really happens, and then we will know for sure if the Prime Minister is being held at ransom or something. But, it goes to show that even during the 2016 political campaign that was going on, it goes to show the hypocrisy of these political parties, both the SLP and the UWP, because they know of the existence of the cannabis movement, and yet they went on their platforms. I heard it from Emma Hippolyte and also from Herman Gil Francis on the different platforms, and none of them saw it fit to engage the cannabis movement to say, well, look, let us understand this issue a little better. Call us to a meeting and probably, be articulated better even in manifestos, etc. So when you're on platform, you could speak about it better. None of them did that. They completely sort of hijacked the idea as if, well, they've always been for it and just talk about it on the platform to gain votes. And like Mr. Dikere said, the UWP win and they won the election. And now it's time now to show slate. And this is what we get in.
Do you have a plan B after July, a few months later, what you want to see happen and how the cannabis movement of St. Lucia plans to
Yes,
react?
massive demonstration in St. Lucia.
Yeah,
We have to take this thing to the streets. We have to call on the people of St. Lucia to come out and show this government what time it is. Because if the government is just stalling for time and if they're trying to buy time, after July, we will really know what's going on. And then, if people have to massive demonstration in the streets, we'll have to do it to the government house, to the Prime Minister office, government building. We'll have to take this thing because we cannot be passive no more team. People are suffering. People are suffering big time. We have people in jail languishing on remand. For how long? For possession of small quantities. Farmers living in fear. Our police have to go up in the hills and risk their life, snake bites and falling over cliffs to go and burn plantations. Why we want to put our police officers through these things when those countries who have those laws for so many years are relaxing? Why are we enforcing these things on our people and causing our people to put their whole life in danger when guys will come in your plantation and rob your plantation? You cannot even go and make a police report. You'll have to take up take up an illegal weapon and go and hunt him down, or take your cutlass and go and hunt them down.
And that's happening.
And
That's
that is all
happening.
these things are causes of crime. Yeah. So if the government is serious about stopping crime and all these things, they will see the need to do this thing. So then we are saying after July, when we head a government position, if it's not favorable, we'll have to have massive demonstration in St. Lucia. It's high time that the true revolutionaries come out, because we cannot take this thing no more. As a Rastafari community, we've been suffering for over 50 years under this thing. When will it stop?
And the Antiguan Prime Minister spoke of reparation for Rastafarians.
Exactly.
Proprietary justice,
earlier
yeah.
this year.
Yes.
What are you looking at from the perspective of Rastafarians in St. Lucia?
We're looking at land, first of all. Make land available to the Rastafari community so we could have our communal area where we could establish our farms, we could establish our community as a Rastafari community, and even that could be a tourist attraction where tourists could come and have a nature tour to see how Rastafari living in St. Lucia. That could be a tourism attraction as well. But land is one of the first things the government have to make available to the Rastafari community for our farming, for our community, and also to make the necessary resources available to ensure that we're able to work the land, provide the necessary support for us as well. And we need to ensure that our religious rights are respected. The days that we celebrate, we know 25th of December is the Christmas according to the Gregorian calendar, the Roman calendar, which we have a lot of Roman Catholics. We celebrate that. The birthday of His Majesty is our is our time. These things have to be respected. And I remember in the time of the Honorable Stephenson King as Prime Minister, all these things were already afoot for him to put these things to ensure that these things were respected. The birthday of men like Marcus Garvey give Rastafari the time to go on their celebration in the tabernacle, etc., etc. So all these things, we need to ensure that these things are addressed. Also, the raid on Mount Jimmy, the atrocities of Mount Jimmy, up to now, this thing have not been settled. We have not received any kind of compensation for that. Brothers were killed up there. So all these things happen, and it's high time we have some kind of truth and reconciliation happening with even this whatever government that's in power, because at the time it was the UWP government under Sir John. We are saying that whichever government is there, they have to take responsibility for that thing and address this thing with the Rastafari community. So all these ways are ways in showing that they are giving reparations to the Rastafari community, because we know CARICOM want to ask for reparations from the Europeans for the transatlantic slavery. Let it begin at home. Make good on what you all have done to the Rastafari community, the killing of Rastafari in the name of the herb, the jailing, all the fees that we've paid, destroy our families, unable to send our children to school. All these things must be addressed. But land is one of the main things that they have to make available, because once they go down that road of decriminalization or legalization, we will need land to plant herb. So we will need the land, so the land have to be available.
You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. We're also on our Facebook page, so please log on. And we also have a chat room that you can engage in further discussion among yourselves. And in just a moment, we'll be taking your calls as we continue the broadcast once again with my guests, Aaron Alexander and Andre Pancho de Queiroz, and they're from the Cannabis Movement of St. Lucia. Let's take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Over the past few decades, a group
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. We are also on our Facebook page. Let's put the telephone line, the telephone number on screen so that you can call with your questions and comments for my guests. Once again, Aaron Alexander and Andre Pancho de Queiroz of the Cannabis Movement of St. Lucia. With regard to steps that... Okay, we have a call already, so let's go straight to the call. Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Good night.
Hi,
Again,
good night to you.
Mr. de Queiroz, I want to ask you a question. Are you going to help the government with the wellness center when it's overcrowded and with medication? That business, to me, the government should stop you a long time with that decriminalizing marijuana. That kind of thing you coming up with that country, that's not good at all for the country. Right? That thing you coming up with the country there, it's against us, it's against us, the youth that coming up. People are already smoking in everybody's face, and they don't legalize it yet. Right? They're already smoking in people's face and bus. Right? And you want to promote that? Huh? Come on, man. Check yourself. If you're smoking, I wonder if you giving your kids marijuana to smoke, right? And all of you are like talking about decriminalizing marijuana. All of you are smoking, right? And it's not for no medication you're talking about. It's from smoking, right? See the people that demonstrating against that with you. Tell me, see, look at the people that marching with you to legalize it. Huh? Because think of what when you see you come on TV, think of something else.
Okay. All right, thanks a lot, Mr.
Okay.
de Queiroz. What's you, sir?
Well, you know, that person wants people to go in jail for flowers in their pocket. I can't people like that. I don't try to convince anything. I've never promoted smoking. I'm just saying that people who choose to smoke should not be treated like criminals. That's all. I'm not encouraging it. I've never, for the 20 years that I've been in the public eye, have said, hey, everybody should go and smoke weed. Not once. So this gentleman is just tripping. And I'm sorry. Right now, to be nice and politically correct, the gentleman needs to be educated and to find out what legalization means.
Another call. Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you on the air? Hello, good evening to you, caller.
Well, depending the Carlton.
Can you speak up, please?
Iron.
Yes, speak up.
The Carlton Iron Man.
Yeah.
Just look at first before twice. That is more than them, man.
Yeah,
You
man.
understand? Every man have the choice and the will. You understand? Because they're smoking cigarette nicotine in the public in front of everybody's face. Nobody comes in, but a herb that's growing. You against that? Come on. After my first 6 months in prison, you know, a friend case, you know, I didn't have no marijuana, you know. When I had it, they charged me. Right? They charged me 6 months. And because of my operation, I didn't have no hope, you know. They framed me, you know, my brother in heart.
Right.
You understand? They make me pay $1,000, and I pay $1,000, and I get free up from prison, you know. My brother, and I know them police up to today. I just always tell them that, remember that they framed me, and I could never forget them, you know. And I go through a lot of tribulation with the man for hope, you know, brutalized in 1974, going all down there, you know. I, Moa JPS, talking to you now, Iron. I know you and you know me.
Yeah, man.
You understand?
Yeah,
So
man.
when that man talking about all them crap and them nonsense,
Yeah.
this is best. That is a herb.
Yeah.
That is a natural thing, you know, which nature produce. Who want to smoke will smoke. Who want to drink it will drink it.
Yeah.
Who want to eat it will eat it.
Yeah.
But I know to myself, no smoking alone. You understand? For your inside.
Right.
But marijuana is not a drug, my brother. Simple as that. And I respect that because I myself just smoke. I just use it.
Right.
Okay? But not using it like to abuse it like how guys abusing it. Okay, my brethren?
True.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, man.
So I want to hear you all respond
yeah.
after I let
Yeah.
that phone down, please.
True.
Let me respond.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Tobacco kills 7 million people every year around the world.
True.
Nobody has a problem with smoking tobacco. People who smoke tobacco are not put in jail or viewed as criminals. Alcohol is responsible for almost as many deaths. Yet we use sexual images to promote alcohol. So how am I a criminal now? How am I a criminal?
How many die from herb?
Yeah. How many people
what-
die
yeah,
from herb? The World Health Organization just came out and advised the world to legalize herb.
Herb. Yes. So this
Study
gentleman.
after study after study has proven that alcohol and tobacco are much more dangerous substances.
Then
And look,
marijuana.
we are allowing people to bring in tobacco and sell it in gas stations. Everywhere we see tobacco, everywhere we see alcohol.
Yeah.
But,
we had a
but
call
herb,
earlier, but we've lost the call, so we continue to await your calls. Once again, this is Newsmaker Live on DBS Television. In terms of, okay, we have a call. Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution, caller. Hello.
Could leave it, okay?
Hi. Good evening to you, caller.
Blessed love, greetings.
Good evening.
greetings, yeah.
Yeah, greetings to all the brothers and them there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you see the first caller that called there? That is the problem that we have there, you know. The miseducation of the herbs.
Yes, man.
You know what I'm saying? And that is what I want to see from Pancho and them, from Alexander and them and them. You all need to bring exhibition out, showing the people and them the kind of things that the herbs does do.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
From shampoo to material and all the different things that you all need to have exhibition on that. You all have the matches year after year after year, but yet still we don't see no videos, we don't see no exhibition, we don't see no kind of product that the herb could do. You know what I'm saying?
Point taken.
You all have
Yeah,
to
man.
bring those things out to the public. Marijuana is already legal. You know what I'm saying? As far as because people smoking it everywhere, just like alcohol and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But to build it as an industry, we're not doing that yet. So the education of the herb, even in the schools,
True.
we have to bring videos.
Correct.
You know, we have to show the youth and them the kind of things. We have to get the things down here. The things making shoes, making clothes, even money too.
Yeah, but
the
caller, the
marijuana
Ministry of
pays
Education
money.
not giving us permission to come into the schools. We have applied to ask permission to come into the schools to help educate the children about this, but they're not giving us permission.
Well, I mean, even they don't give you permissions in the school, but the town hall meetings and stuff like that,
Yeah, correct.
you're gonna be
Well, we
having.
have
You'll
a
have to come
series
up with
going on now.
videos.
Yeah, we have a series.
Well, we
You know?
intend.
Okay, sir. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
thank you.
You're saying?
Yeah, well, the caller is quite right. We did have some displays earlier. That was like in
Yeah, the town hall, yeah, I
2011.
remember that, yeah.
But you know, we just don't have it anymore. We keep bringing out the same old soap and same
Yeah,
old stuff.
The shirts and the
Yeah.
shoes and everything.
Hello, good evening to you.
Hey,
Hello?
brothers, good night.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
I just need to know a couple of things. First, would you say that the cannabis can be an addictive substance?
No, brother.
It's not physically addictive like alcohol, cocaine, heroin, and tobacco.
cigarettes,
But it can be. A certain percentage of people who do use it get psychologically addicted to it. But it's not as much as a physical. Even coffee is more addictive than cannabis.
And consequently, you can say it is a mind-altering substance.
It is a mind-altering substance.
So therefore, it can border along a very dangerous route.
The same way that alcohol is a mind-altering substance. In fact, alcohol has a more debilitating effect on your mind than the herb, because people who get extremely drunk completely forget. They act irrationally, they act violently, and they can actually overdose on alcohol. So when you speak about mind-altering substances, the king of mind-altering substances is alcohol.
You can't overdose on herbs.
So,
okay, let me just ask just a couple of questions, Tim. I will leave
Go
line
ahead.
and then they can answer. Don't
Sure.
cut me off. I want to say I heard in the discourse say there were a couple of personalities, international personalities as well,
Yes.
who have been given support to the drug. But let me just say this, two things, or three things. I think the Lion of Judah, I think a lot of us black brothers, we try to more or less coax ourselves along his route. But you know that he didn't really keep an exemplary example of how good leadership he can control the Ethiopian community and the brothers and the sisters. They were doing very well. You know, he died and the country went out of financial fortunes. Recently, I read a documentation where the son was in Jamaica asking the Jamaican government for assistance for Ethiopia, when they had so much money before, but they smoked all the thing away. Then the other thing I heard as well, that, don't you laugh, brothers, I heard as well that the Virgin Atlantic money gave support to the cannabis. But listen, look at this guy. This guy had Virgin Atlantic. He first lost that agency to the Canadians. Now he has lost almost the entire franchise to Delta Airlines. But what is he trying to do? He was trying to go to space because he can't live on Earth anymore? Or is he trying to depopulate the black nation or the non-white nation? I mean, let's be realistic. If we really have alcohol, which is mind-altering, it can be so devastating, why do we want to bring another one here?
it was always there, sir.
Okay,
it
sir,
was there
thanks a
for
lot.
the last
We don't have
4,000
to
years.
make it get so popular that it's going to be so consumed to affect our people. I mean, look at where you want to go. You want to go to the young kids. They have hardly been able to make wrong from right decisions, and we want to give them something which can alter their minds.
What are you saying? What are you talking about?
Okay, caller, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll see you, gentlemen.
No, but you know, that's somebody who didn't hear what we are saying.
Yes.
They're not listening. We're going to educate the kids about the dangers of cannabis and to not do it. That is what we're educating them about. It's 18 years and over.
But you know, there's
But
always those
people
people
always
who drink of
who
the
co-
old wine, man.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
those kids
and
for
talk
year.
that.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you,
Let me
sir.
tell you, I was blind. I couldn't see nothing. And then a man told me to smoke marijuana. And I smoke it, I drink it, and now I can see you very well.
Yes, it is therapeutic.
I hope the caller who called earlier heard that.
Okay, but we'll leave that to the medical people to determine whether it's as a result of
that's
smoking or
okay,
drinking the herb. Good evening. This is Newsmaker Live. You're on the air.
Tim,
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
all right, and your guest.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah,
I think
good
that's
evening.
kind of an expert on marijuana. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I
Suku.
think so.
Let
I
me
think
tell you something. You see, that's why personally I can't engage in this sort of discussions, you know. Because you see, St. Lucians, them people is people, they're not ignorant, you know. They choose ignorance over enlightenment.
Sure.
You know, and when people decide they're choosing ignorance, and the other gentleman telling you about you should educate people. This thing on TV nearly every week. Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
Dr.
Have a series
Gupta
on that,
giving
yes.
you, they have part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4.
Correct.
The medicinal benefits.
Correct.
Showing you the examples of babies that would, people who would have died otherwise, people who have, pain issues, all the, right across the board. Yes. They show you all the various products that could be, and we're living in an age, every little child has a smartphone and things.
Exactly.
And they keep saying these sort of things. They just keep saying these things all the time. I don't have time for that, you know what I mean? And Pancho, I don't agree that marijuana might altering, marijuana never alter my mind, You understand?
How should I explain the ganja experience?
Well, I think what is being said is that generally there are some people who are susceptible to it more than others.
Right? Well, if people vulnerable, they should stay away from it.
They're predisposed to other things.
You understand? Because I feel my mind pretty sharp at my age. I feel sometimes,
Sometimes it's too sharp, Isugu?
Eh?
Sometimes it's too sharp.
There you go. So maybe if it alters my mind and making it sharper. Then I wait.
Yeah.
But you're a young man, boy, Iron. And don't spend your life trying to convince solutions of things,
True.
These people choose ignorance over enlightenment. The politicians standing in the way.
Yes.
And playing on these people, they're glad these people choosing ignorance.
Ignorance, yes.
You understand? Because they themselves not going to enlighten.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But you know what? Somebody said to me recently, come next elections, Shastne might try and steal the elections by liberalizing the use of weed. And that's a very interesting thought. You see, they see everything in terms of political expediency. You know what I'm saying? And not the wrong and right of it. And Pancho, I admire you, boy, for all these years. But you see me, you will never find me in no argument with no solution with anybody about things. Let them people live their life.
Yes.
You understand? I am going to take up argument with people like the earlier caller, I think was more I was saying. You can make me argue with you about something I didn't put there. Jaja put there on my, a natural thing. I go try and make, persuade you and convince you that is good. I'm foolish to try and do that. I could defend Jaja. Jaja have to defend me. I go waste my time trying to show you it's not a drug and this and that. Rasta, anything, if you eat too much sugar cane, you get in thing.
Yeah.
If you eat too much sweet mangoes, you get in diabetes.
Yeah.
If you eat too much dashin, you get in diabetes.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean? Everything in life is moderation.
Yes, man.
And excesses of anything could
Not
destroy
good.
you.
Yeah, man.
So this puerile arguments people keep coming with and not wanting to see and even play lock their minds. I just find that I've been a young man in St. Lucia, a baby, a girl, grow up. I just find St. Lucians just choose ignorance. You will never make St. Lucians call Lou Costello. Lou Costello. For them, he's bot. And don't care how you tell them that, he's bot. And anybody that looks short and portly, they'll call him Bota. Whereas the man name is Lou Costello. These people, I know that from my youth, my brother, that St. Lucian.
So good, they're creative, man. They're creative.
Ignorance over enlightenment. So leave them who want to stay ignorant. Leave them in it, Gassan.
Yeah, man.
Irie?
Yeah, thanks for it.
So you'll follow his advice?
Well, Mr. Polio, over the years, when I'm debating with people, I give them at least 5 minutes. And then when I realize I'm not going anywhere, I politely say, well, I have something else to do and move away. Because you can't convince certain ignorant people.
Listen now, attention to another call. Good evening. This is Newsmaker Live. You're on the air.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Good evening to you, caller.
Hello.
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
Let me ask a question to the population of St. Lucia. You only want to accept the cannabis, but you want to accept the Henry segment. That's so derogatory to my young girls. This is what I'm showing you. So you'll have no point and you can't stop it. It's inevitable. Also, I'm just blowing some smoke there, relaxing myself from my hard day's work,
True.
and I good.
True.
I trouble nobody.
Yeah, man.
Cap, we will see on the ICs.
Yeah, take care of the ICs, yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
You know, earlier Suku said it's not a mind-altering substance. You know, I remember one time Bob Marley said, the system, you know, the system that's organized against cannabis, they always tell you it make your head go bad. But it make your head go bad against what? And when you really look at it, cannabis, when you consume cannabis, you ponder on things and you look at things in the society and the ills of society, and you actually become more aware of things in the society. So it make your head go bad against the wrong things in society. So that's why they're fighting it.
Let's take a call. Let's take a call. Good evening. This is Newsmaker Live. You're on the air.
Hello, good night. I listened to the program there. Big up to the brothers there.
Yes.
I'm from Guyana, right? And what you are promoting, let me tell you something. Don't worry, Sintush is just there behind time. You know, we're speaking there.
Now you from Guyana. Don't get too involved in our family problems there situation. So be very careful.
Don't worry with that. Because right
Allah is one family.
For the last one, he's right what he's saying. You should don't know what is cannabis. You understand? It's a herb.
Yeah.
It depends how you use it. You understand? You can use it for asthma, you can use it for breathing, you can use it for different things. And what I'm saying, if you all want to come out with it, it's high time for you all to come out with it, because let me tell you, people is making medicine, they're making it into tablets, they're making it into different things, and it's on the market right now. You know what I'm telling you?
Correct.
It's on the market. And if you don't come up with something now, you will not have nothing. All Sintusha there is behind time, and there's countries coming and taking over. So the herbs that y'all want to produce and go out there with, it's high time for y'all to put out it. It's nothing wrong with it. Yes, you have to educate the people how it, because some people don't know much about it. But if you educate the people and the children then, as the gentleman there with the bear say, alcohol and cigarette killing people by the millions every day. And the herbs will not kill you. I feel because it's not cocaine, that's why the government don't want to promote y'all. If it was cocaine or the white man's substance, you so far the government promote you because it's $1 million it's spending. But the herbs was natural. The government holding back you. Check the market and see how much countries is already on the market, local people is on the market, promoting and they're making substance out of it, different things out of it. So the question is, when Sintusha will be moving forward to put something and put things in place? As the Rastaman said, it will be good for the young people to have a little job and a little something to provide for the family. I agree with that. It will not do the young people anything. It's how you use it. Everything is how you use it. Correct. So what y'all trying to do down here, I big y'all up 1,000,000 times. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to harm you. It's how you use it. I'm not going in a shop and buy a box of cigarettes. By the time you reach 40, you don't spend $1,000 in cigarettes. Huh? That will not kill you. And I beg you people, keep fighting to promote this substance. It's a good herb. Take it from me, my brother.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you so much for calling. Once again, you're watching Newsmaker Live. We await another call. I'm sure it's already on the way. Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, ma'am.
Yes, a very interesting topic. Let me tell you something. Some people who don't know really don't know, and they say a lot of things they don't know about. I'm a woman. Honestly, I used to drink alcohol, and the amount of things I would do, alcohol would make me do. Be brave, pick up a fight, a quarrel, or anything, and I would not see to myself that this is not good. I would feel bad. I would feel strong. I would feel that I could take on the world. But one day a friend of mine said to me, don't drink alcohol when you go out. Let's smoke a weed. I said, smoke a weed. She said, yes. It's going to show you sense and make you better. So I smoked a weed, and that night I did not drink no alcohol, but I hold a bottle of water. So I kept drinking water and water all night long, but yes, I did smoke that weed. You know what happened to me? I felt so calm. I felt so cool. I felt like that was the best day of my life. And I'm just standing in a corner, enjoying what's going on, but I'm seeing some young women there just doing a lot of nonsense with themselves. Like, it just gave me an insight, showing me that look at what women do with themselves that's not good. And those women, they were drinking rum. They were drinking alcohol. It was like they were in a world where the alcohol was just carrying them away and they were just doing things, while the people who smoke weed was just conscious of what they were doing. Honestly, from that time I'm smoking weed and it never does nothing to me. If I drink alcohol, I'm driving, I always feel I can drive really fast. But if I smoke a weed, it keeps saying, take it easy, don't go fast, hold on to your side. It never, ever makes me do anything I should not do. Whereas when I was drinking alcohol, I was in a worse shape, and I can testify that. Honestly, I can testify. Smoking a weed is not bad. I don't abuse weed. I smoke a joint. It relaxes me, sends me to sleep properly all night long. And when I wake up next day, I feel strong again. When I drink alcohol, when I wake up next day, I have a hangover. I want to vomit. My head hurting me. I'm in a mess. So I don't know what some people are talking about. They just have to educate their children. Talk to your children. Make them know it's not for them. I don't know what they're talking about. That's just the stigma. Thank you.
And marijuana is very illegal. It's illegal. It's an illegal drug in St. Lucia. So we're not advocating, especially the management and staff of this television station, we have to act in a very responsible manner. We're not advocating that you use marijuana because it is an illegal drug, but we just thought there's need to discuss this issue to ventilate it. We continue to take your calls once again. This is Newsmaker Live right here on DBS television. We have at least 10 more minutes left, so we'll utilize that time to engage you with regard to what you have to say, your reaction to the comments that were made earlier on by Mr. Aaron Alexander and Mr. Andre Pancho de Queiroz. Good evening, you're on the air. Hello? Okay. And when you call, please turn on the volume of your television set. Do you think you'll encounter any problems, any difficulties if marijuana is decriminalized or utilized, where, for example, you have to market it, where it has to be packaged and so on, in terms of getting the assistance and the support of the private sector? How do you think the private sector will react?
Well, actually, yesterday, a friend of mine called me from British Columbia who's doing some investigative...
The local private sector?
Well, we need to engage a St. Lucia Manufacturers Association. We want in, like I say, the St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Association, different products for different sections of society, because where the Manufacturers Association may be interested in developing industrial products, the hotels may want just recreational products. So one of the laws is no advertising, no billboards, no bunting. So you wouldn't see anything promoting the use of ganja. None of that. That is unacceptable, and we are not doing that. So people will know where to purchase it. They will have places.
Okay, the last caller, please. I think your telephone line is still engaged and we cannot receive calls. So please try to hang up your phone properly so that we can continue to take calls. Okay, we have a call. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Hi. Tim?
Yes, good evening to you.
I just want to let persons know that, we should really do our history and look at the origins and since how long marijuana has been on this world, Tim. Marijuana, they claim, has been around since 2737 BC, you know. And they said it was being used as a medicine. So, I mean, these things are around there. And right now, you have the internet. And let me tell you, I have the books. I have books written about marijuana since, as I tell you, BC. So, and they tell you the properties of marijuana. And there's a medication there in our books, in our medical books, which is cannabinol, And if guys knew what the whole thing was about, you could have taken your cigarette, dip in it, and smoke it, and maybe they could. At that time, I guess it would have been legal. I mean, it's sad that I have to say it because, I mean, I too was responsible for a lot of young persons ending up in prison because it was the law. But from a very, very early times, I have read about the history of marijuana, and this thing has gone way before Christ, and it has been used, So the question is, now we have that information available to us, is for us to read it, and for the powers that be to read it, And I have been saying for some time now, we have a number of young persons who had gone to prison because of
marijuana. And the cost of keeping, if they're still there, I don't know if they're still there, and the cost of keeping these young persons inside there, I think it is time that the government of the day take a decision, and those persons who are in there for small amounts should be released. That's my take.
Okay, thank you so much for calling, sir. Somebody sent me a WhatsApp message. Tim, I'm not a Rasta in any shape, fashion, or form. I've never used any kind of drug or smoked, but I can tell you marijuana saved my life. I developed asthma, and it was traced to a reaction to insecticides. I was on 2 inhalers that were literally killing me. A Rastafarian friend brought me a male tree and the instructions. From the very first cup, I felt my respiratory system revive. Anytime I'm exposed to insecticides, I go back to the remedy, and it has never failed me. However, if I make the tea too strong, I have a tendency to sleep excessively. Let's take our final call. Good evening. Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Yes, good night, good night.
Hi, good night to you, caller.
How are you doing?
All right.
All right.
Yeah, talking about marijuana. Do you think marijuana will help to create employment?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Okay, will help to create employment, huh?
Yes.
And they will have license.
Yes, we are proposing a licensing regime. 5 different licenses.
And it will create tourists to come to our island for marijuana?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But anyway, we should look on the bright side, huh? Don't look on the dark side.
True, correct.
Because marijuana helps to slow down, remove aggression. There's too much aggression, man.
Yep. Too much
Those
aggression.
guys are too aggressive, man. Need to smoke a little.
To calm down.
To calm down the nerves.
Correct.
Man. Because I'm a guy, I used to smoke because I was a very shy guy. When I smoke, it relaxes me. I could watch a woman in the eye and talk to them without my eye beating. But anyway, take it easy.
Thank you so much for calling. That's Mr. Leclerc.
Okay.
Yeah, final comments from you. Let's start with you, Alex.
Well, I would say I want the people to know out there that the Ayanola Council for the Advancement of Rastafari, we are on a public awareness campaign, a mobilization drive going throughout the island. And at those meetings, we engage the public, we educate them as well. Mr. Dikeres is on the train with us as well, educating people. And our next stop is in Vieux-Fort on the Sunday, the 8th of July. After Vieux-Fort, we go to Fort Saint-Jacques on the 15th of July. And on the 22nd of July, we have a grand rally at Serenity Park. So at all those sessions, we are educating the public constantly about the uses of the herb and ensuring that people get educated on the whole council itself and the benefits of being a member of the council. All these things are discussed at those meetings. Also, I want to say to the powers that be, look into this issue very seriously. The religious leaders out there, Rastafari need their religious sacrament as well for them to have their worship, etc. We need that right. And we are party to the convention, the Geneva Convention, the convention at the UN. We are signatory to the UN Convention that we need our religious rights as well to be able to use our herb and not get arrested. And our young people mustn't go to jail for herb. All these things we need to look into, and decriminalizing or legalizing will definitely have an impact on the crime in St. Lucia. And I want to say to St. Lucians as well, remember what I said tonight, tourism will not save us. The only savior for us is agriculture. Agriculture has to be our backbone as a nation for us to be able to feed our people. And unless we don't have a government without that vision, St. Lucia will go nowhere. Tourism will bring us nowhere. Agriculture must be our backbone as a nation. Thank you.
Mr. Dikeres?
Yeah, I would like to say, in fact, I'd like to encourage all the organizations, the Conference of Churches, the Manufacturers Association, the Hotel and Tourism Association, all the associations and bodies that they have around the Secondary Schools Principals Association. I would encourage all organizations and associations to invite the Cannabis Movement Executive to come and give our presentation so that you would know exactly what is going on. There's too much misinformation and too many people are not aware and educated as to what the whole intention is. And give us a chance. We need to educate people. I encourage the Prime Minister to come out and make a statement. And something that can happen right now is, one, the Prime Minister will come out and say 30 grams is considered a personal amount, so that there's no, you don't leave it up to the policeman's discretion. Two, you release the people in Bordelais right now on only ganja crimes. 3, you give the Industrial Hemp Initiative, permission to commence their research trials that we asked for the last 20 years to do, which is not ganja. It is a benign cousin of ganja that makes industrial products. And allow us to pursue the regulatory regime to improve the Misuse of Drugs Act. We need to improve on it or write a complete new Cannabis Act. We cannot delay anymore. And the faster we do it, I think it's better for the country.
Mr. DeCarez, thank you so much for
Thanks
being my
again.
guest, as well as Mr. Alexander.
Thank you for having us,
And
Tim.
to you, thank you so much for watching the broadcast and contributing via your calls. If it's Wednesday, it's Newsmaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked.
Hi, I'm Alex Busquet, and you're watching Street Vibes. How big of a problem is alcohol in Castries City?
That's a big problem, eh?
Yes. Why would you say so?
Yeah, because I drink alcohol more often than I even buy food.
You serious?
Very serious about it.
Now, do you think that that's a problem?
It is a serious problem. Very serious problem. By us, because you can walk down the market. How many people you see there buying food? All you see, alcohol they sell. Not alcohol they sell, but alcohol they drink. And it's just like norm of the day.
Including you?
Myself.
75% of drinking alcohol. Why? I'll tell you. Because their brain fixed on alcohol and it's not on danger.
Would you tell me, including your brain is fixed on alcohol?
Right. And not on danger. And wickedness.
But on alcohol?
But on alcohol. When I drink my rum, what I do, walk the street, and I know I did prepare my home.
Look, I now see a drunken master there. He's only 12 years. He came across the road at this age. And he's touching all this pocket as if they pick me. They take all the money. The money gone.
But you think that's a big problem?
For him, not for me.
No, but in Castries.
And that's the broadcast. If it's Wednesday's Newsmaker Live, my name is Timothy Pauling. I'm saying good night and see you next time.